one thing that we can do with our square roots is we can combine them. So we call it combining like radicals. So think about back when you learned about combining like terms. So you had something like 3x and 8x. You were able to combine those together because they both had that x term on it. They both just had just an x after the number. We just added the coefficients, 3 plus 8, that gave us 11x. But then when we also had a situation like 6x squared plus 4x, because our variables were not exactly the same, we couldn't combine them. So we did nothing to it. It just had to stay 6x squared plus 4x. This situation is exactly the same as when we are working with radicals instead of variables. We call them like radicals, as I mentioned. And so when we combine them, we are looking for like radicals that have the exact same radicand and index. So there are those vocabulary words that are coming up again. So examples of like radicals would be 4 square root 3 and 9 square root 3. These are like radicals because they have inside the radical symbol our radicand, the number is both 3 in them, and they have the exact same index. Remember, this one does not have that number written there, that little number on top written, so that means their index is 2. Underneath here is another example of two like radicals, 7 square root 10 and negative 4 square root 10. It does not matter that the 4 here is negative, but this 7 here is positive. What matters is that the number inside the radical is the same and that they're both square roots and don't have a higher index than that. Over here are some non-examples. These are things that do not have like radicals. So 6 square root 5 and 2 cubed root 5. So here's an example when you have an index that's bigger than a 2. That's a 3. This one has an index of 2. So because of that, they're not like radicals. Another non-example, 3 square root 2 and 8 square root 3. These are non-examples because the number inside the radical are different. 2 and 3 are not the same, so they're not like radicals. So with that information, we want to combine these like radicals. So to do that, we're simply going to do like we did when we combined like terms. We're going to add the number that we have outside the like radical. We have a negative 9 square root 6 plus 10 square root 6. Because they're like radicals, they both have that square root 6. All we're going to do then is combine the numbers out front. So we're going to combine the negative 9 and the 10 and keep that square root 6 on the end. Negative 9 plus 10 is going to give me 1. So the answer to this problem is going to be 1 square root 6, or we just write it as square root 6. You don't have to have that one out front. Another example, negative 11 square root 21 minus 11 square root 21. Because they're like radicals, they're both square root 21. We combine the negative 11 minus 11. When we combine that, that gives us a negative 22. So our final answer when combined is negative 22 square root 21. We just keep that square root 21 on the end of it. This one is a little interesting because we now have 3 that we're combining, but we do the exact same thing because all 3 of these have the same radical. They have the same index and the same radicand. We're just going to add the numbers out front. So we have a 9 out front, we have a 15 out front, and then this is a negative 1. When we don't see that number, just like in this first example, when you don't see that number, it's a 1. So we're going to take that 9 plus 15 minus 1 and put that together with the square root 17 on the end to give ourselves a final answer of 22 square root 17.